Walters Sports Bar is available for private events. Visit waltersdc.com/private events for more information.
Whether you're a world-class athlete or a podcaster like me, we all understand the importance of mental and physical well-being and proper recovery for top-notch performance. That's why I'm excited that Unified Healing is sponsoring podcasts on the Blue Wire Network. Unified Healing is a new and super innovative global network of wellness centers powered by Energy Enhancement System, or EE System. If you haven't heard of the EE System yet, then you'll want to listen up. This technology promotes wellness, deep relaxation, purification, and rejuvenation. Wherever you are across the globe, access to a center is easy and affordable. Interested in experiencing the EE System technology for yourself? Go to unifiedhealing.com/bluewire to learn more and find a center near you. That's unified, UNIFYD, healing.com/bluewire. No material or testimonials on the Unified Healing website are intended to be viewed as medical advice or a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or treatment and before undertaking a new healthcare regimen, including EE System.
Set the 3-2, the runner holds, and the pitch is blasted to left field and deep. Back is Vargas looking up, and this one is long gone. Into section 104, a 2-run homer for Ty France makes it 4-0 Seattle. Now the set, the 1-1. Swing a fly ball right field deep, toward the corner. If it's fair, it's gone. It's way back there, it hits the foul pole. Abrams flips the bat away. It's a 3-run homer, and the Nationals lead 5-4.
Pitch. Swinging a ground ball slowly hit right side. Garcia chasing, can't get there. It's through into right field. Rounding third, Rodriguez. He will score. Rosario's throw. It's the backstop on the fly. France with an RBI single to give the Mariners the lead. He drives in his third run of the day. 2 runs home against Floro here in the 8th inning, and the Mariners have turned it around. It's now Seattle 6 and Washington 5. Now the set by Weems. The 1-2 swung on line drive, base hit into right field. Raley scores from third, rounding third Crawford. He'll come in to score. Heading for third is Moore. It's a single to right center field and 2 runs batted in for Julio Rodriguez. And now has driven in 4 in the game. 3 runs home for the Mariners. They now lead it 9-5.
And welcome to Nats Chat for Monday, May 27th, 2024. What is Memorial Day 2024? A salute and a thank you to all of those who have died in service to our country, along with MASNsports.com Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast, and for once, I am the one who is on location. I am coming to you from Pittsburgh, where I attended the Pirates' 8-1 loss to the Atlanta Braves at PNC Park on Sunday afternoon. Consider what I was doing advanced scouting for the Nationals' next series. I did witness this Ronald Acuna Jr. left knee injury that has Braves fans in a panic, and rightly so. He could be out for a while, and that's could be catching the Braves and perhaps an opportune time. We shall see. But with the Nats, they on Sunday afternoon were denied a 3-game sweep of the American League West leading Seattle Mariners at Nationals Park. A 9-5 loss in a game in which the Nats overcame a 4-0 fifth inning deficit, but then blew a 5-4 eighth inning lead in allowing 5 runs over the 8th and 9th innings. The Nats for this regular season fall to 23 and 28. This installment of the Nats Chat podcast is brought to us by Cape Ivy, a D.C. area charity that has donated over 18,000 ponchos to keep kids warm. Visit capeivy.org for more information. Mark, this game for the Nats on Sunday afternoon was almost like 2 games in one. We had what happened for most of the first 6 innings, a ho-hum, not much happening kind of game. And then we had what started with the final out of the 6th inning through the end of the game. A rather wild affair started with Luis Garcia Jr. being called out due to fan interference with runners on first and second and 2 outs in the bottom of the 6th. We had the Nats scoring 4 runs in the bottom of the 7th, and we had the Mariners scoring 5 runs over the 8th and 9th innings, and this ended up being anything but a ho-hum game.
Yeah, I had about 3 different versions in my head, at least, of what I thought the story was going to be for this game, because at first you thought, oh, well, Patrick Corbin took the loss. They didn't do anything offensively. Well, no, that was kind of a side note in the end. Then you have the interference play that looks like it could decide the game, at least at that moment. And no, that kind of becomes a footnote at the end. Then you're thinking, okay, here's a great story. C.J. Abrams hitting his first home run in weeks, and it's a huge home run that gives him the lead. But then, no, that doesn't really become the story anymore, because the guy who we just talked about yesterday, the guy who's been one of the most dominant relievers in baseball, ends up finally giving up a run and costing them. And take your pick. You can say we jinxed him. You can say that Davey Martinez, talking about him the other day, jinxed him. You could say that Hunter Harvey and Kyle Finnegan jinxed him because they talked about it. Maybe Dylan Floro just, was bound to give up a run at some point. Unfortunately, he did. And that, in the end, became the story of the day, which is too bad because there was a lot of other really interesting stuff that could have been the predominant storyline of this game.
The Nats bullpen has been so good, you almost feel guilty for getting on it. It just was not particularly good on this day on Sunday afternoon. You ended up having 3 Nats relievers combining to allow 5 runs in 3 innings, but all 5 of the runs came off just 2 relievers, Dylan Floro and Jordan Weems. And yes, perhaps we do need to shelve the Dylan Floro for the All-Star game talk, although we'll see what happens beyond this. But Floro and Weems over the 8th and 9th innings combined to allow 5 runs on 2 leadoff doubles, 4 singles, a walk, a run-scoring hit by pitch, and a wild pitch. We did get Jacob Barnes tossing a perfect top of the 7th, but Dylan Floro, who is pitching for a 3rd consecutive day, allowed 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning. He had a 2-run Mariners 8th, faced 5 batters, and got just 2 outs. And then Jordan Weems allowed 3 runs in 1 1/3 innings. He, in the top of the 9th, allowed 3 runs. So, in thinking about what happened with Floro, pitching for a 3rd consecutive day, not to make excuses for him, but this to me is part of the consequence of the Tanner Rainey situation. When you're essentially functioning a man short in your bullpen because you have a guy who you essentially refuse to pitch in anything close to a high leverage spot, you have to do something like lean on a Dylan Floro for 3 consecutive days, off having used Hunter Harvey for a bunch of days. And at some point, these guys are going to get fatigued, and these guys aren't going to come through in the way that they have been coming through.
Right. Now, look, none of them were using that as an excuse for the way he pitched, but it's natural to take that and say that had to play some kind of role in this. Hunter Harvey had pitched 3 days in a row. He was obviously unavailable. Kyle Finnegan, you're hoping to get to the 9th inning with him. Now, what was interesting is that Derek Law hadn't pitched in a bunch of days, and I asked, and there was nothing wrong with him. That was circumstantial or situational for the reason not using him. Now, he hasn't been perfect either, so you can understand why maybe Davey wasn't going to use him in that spot. Floro's been great. You get to that point, you kind of unexpectedly have just taken the lead on the Abrams home run, and now you have to decide, am I going to pitch him a 3rd straight day, or am I going to say, no, you know what? I'm going to rest him. I'm already resting Hunter Harvey, and I'm going to have to ask somebody else to get me through this high leverage situation against the top of the opposing lineup. He went with Floro. It didn't work out. I think you chalk this up as one of those days. Now, you hope there's no carryover effect of that. Hopefully, Floro takes a day or 2 off and is back to who he was before that point. This is the downside of playing so many close games. And if you're going for a series sweep, chances are you've used all your top relievers to win the first 2 games. And to get it in the 3rd game, you're going to have to figure out how you're going to piece it together.
Do you think Davey Martinez considered using Kyle Finnegan for a potential 2-inning save? We have not seen a ton of Finnegan lately. He did toss the perfect top of the 9th for the save in the 3-1 win on Saturday. Do you think Finnegan was at all an option for that 8th inning?
I don't think so. Maybe if he had not pitched on Saturday, then you'd say, okay, he's really fresh. We could do that. But you do that, you're basically also now saying he's not going to pitch the next day. And you've got a game Monday in Atlanta, Monday afternoon in Atlanta. So we've discussed this is a 17-game stretch for them with no scheduled off days. And it boils down to how bad you want to win this one game versus whatever domino effect that may have on future games. And I think, well, fans may not want to hear this necessarily. You already won the series. And it's kind of like, well, this is a bonus if we can pull this off, especially the way that they had to come back to take the lead anyways in this one. And so you say, you know what? We're going to take our chances with a guy who's been brilliant to this point, but unfortunately is pitching the 3rd straight day. And it just didn't work out. And I think you just have to chalk it up to that. You could say, yeah, sure, Finnegan gives you a 6-out save. That's great. And you sweep the series. But then what happens Monday in Atlanta or beyond that? And if he does get into trouble or he has a long 8th inning, well, who's pitching the 9th now? So it's kind of like you can't win in that situation. Maybe it works out, but there's too much potential for it to fall apart, I think.
When Meg Smith's son couldn't stay warm in the hospital, she designed fleece ponchos that kept him warm and wouldn't interfere with his IV lines. Now, Meg donates ponchos made with fun fleece fabrics to other hospitalized children through an all-volunteer nonprofit. Cape Ivy is a DC area charity that has donated over 18,000 ponchos across the country to keep kids warm in memory of Meg's son. Check out their website, capeivy.org. For each $10 donation, a child receives a poncho. That's CAPEIVY.org.
Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 5 million members. It's the most fun and exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats for your shot to win up to 100 times your cash. I made my first $10 deposit and received an instant $10 bonus. And if you have the skills, you can play for a shot of turning your $10 into $1,000. And playoff time is the best time to join the Prize Picks community of over 5 million members who have already downloaded the app. Prize Picks is available in more than 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, and Georgia. Download the app today and use the code BLUEWIRE for a first deposit match up to $100. That's a first deposit match of up to $100 when you download the app and use the code BLUEWIRE. Prize Picks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
As a veteran, I live with health impacts from my service. VA healthcare means you're in 100% control of your own medical care, your own benefits, and it only takes minutes to set up. A veteran should enroll in VA healthcare because it ensures that they get quality, high-level care for the rest of their lives. My service was then, my benefits are now.
Get what you earned. Visit choose.va.gov. Not all veterans are eligible for the type or amount of benefits mentioned here.
James Wood did not play on Sunday for Rochester. He missed the 3rd consecutive game after leaving Thursday evening's game early due to right hamstring tightness. And on Sunday for Harrisburg, Dylan Cruz 0 for 2 in both ends of a doubleheader. Now back to the show.
Here it comes. Swing, it's poked down the left field line. Class A chasing back. The ball slicing toward foul ground. Class A up against the side wall. Jumps into the side wall and cannot make the catch. They're called fan interference. They're going to call him out for fan interference. The catch was not made, but a fan reached over the railing and is being called for fan interference. The third base umpire, Dan Bellino, has called Garcia out. Would Class A have made that catch, running and leaping up toward the wall? Wow.
The Nats did come through with that 4-run bottom of the 7th on Sunday afternoon. This ended up being an interesting game for the Nats offensively. 5 runs on 8 hits, 2 home runs to go with 6 singles, no walks, as the Nats over the 3 games in this series, 1 walk. I mentioned this on the last installment of the podcast. The walks have really started to dry up. The Nats for a while were doing such a good job of drawing walks. It really has slowed down here lately. But regarding the 2 home runs by the Nats in this game on Sunday afternoon, we saw 2 home run droughts for key Nats players mercifully come to end. So Joey Gallo, the man who had an RBI single in the Game 2 win, he came through at last with a home run. It had been a while, but Gallo came through with a home run in this game on Sunday afternoon. Gallo as the Nats starting first baseman and number 7 batter, 1 for 4 with the solo homer. He and the Nats 1-run 5th, a 2-out solo homer to right center field to cut the Nats deficit to 4-1. The homer, his first since April 10th. Now, we have to acknowledge he was on the 10-day injured list for multiple weeks, April 27th to May 17th due to a left shoulder injury. But still, he has not hit homers like he is supposed to. He finally does hit a home run in that spot on Sunday afternoon. And then C.J. Abrams, for whom May has been a nightmare, he came through with a huge homer in this game. Abrams, as your starting shortstop and number 1 batter, 1 for 4 with a 3-run homer. He also made a great defensive play. But Abrams in the Nats 4-run 7th, a 2-out, 3-run homer off the right field foul pole, or fair pole, if you care to call it that, for a 5-4 Nats lead. The homer went a projected 406 feet per Statcast, was Abrams' first homer since April 29th, and was just Abrams' 5th extra base hit of May. As you talked about earlier, if the Nats win this game, that home run really goes down as one of the more dramatic homers for the Nats so far this season. Instead, it does kind of end up being a footnote, but that was a big homer in a big spot by Abrams.
No, it was. And hopefully in the bigger picture, it does still matter, because maybe this is the sign that C.J. Abrams gets back to being the player that he was in April. So that was a big moment for him. He stood there and admired it. He had to make sure it was going to be fair, of course. But I mean, the bat flip that ensued showed you how much that mattered to him. The dugout roared. That was a big deal and capped an impressive rally after a day in which they hardly did anything at the plate against the Mariners starter, Brian Wu. So they get to the bullpen and finally do something there. So that was really nice to see. It's unfortunate it didn't ultimately pay off, but I think you hope that that's, maybe the beginning of something for Abrams. And speaking of the beginning of something, for Joey Gallo, you mentioned the RBI single the previous day. His first at bat in this game is a 109-mile-an-hour line out to right field. So we have actually seen some better contact from him, fewer strikeouts in the last few days, which has been good, and then finally connects on one. Now, it is, and I feel like we've said this about his home runs so far this year, at the time, it didn't feel all that meaningful. You're down 4-0. This makes it 4-1, whoopee. But in the end, it did, provide some cushion for them and ultimately could have been the difference in the game if the bullpen holds on. You just hope, again, that this is a sign of him starting to come together. He was 6 for his last 62 prior to that home run. That is atrocious, as we all know. But he did line out in the first at bat. He lined out again in the 9th inning. So maybe some signs of better at bats from him. The key now, can he start producing in meaningful situations like the RBI single from Saturday?
Well, perhaps Gallo is heating up, and dare I say Keibert Ruiz is hot? Question mark? I think it's possible here. Keibert Ruiz, one of 2 Nats who had a multi-hit game on Sunday afternoon. He didn't even start, and he had a multi-hit game. Keibert came off the bench, went 2 for 2 with a couple of singles. He in that Nats 4-run 7th, had a pinch, 1 out, first pitch single to center field to load the bases. He in the bottom of the 9th had a 2-out single to right field on an 0-2 pitch. Slowly but surely, Keibert is getting going here. He ended up having himself a nice series in this series against Seattle. He on Saturday went 2 for 2 with a double, a single, and an RBI sac fly. He on Friday evening went 2 for 3 with a 2-run homer and a single, and he had done some things prior to that. So, again, I don't want to go too nuts with this because I think he has a ways to go before you really feel good about his season. But he has been better lately, and we're starting to see the Keibert Ruiz who we feel like we should have been seeing all along offensively. He's having some good plate appearances, and he's finally getting some hits.
Yeah, and there's been some loud contacts. That's been good. There's also been some soft contact and hits that fall in. That's fine. I think for him, it's psychological. We noted how low it seemed he was feeling there about a week or two ago when things really were not going well. So just having the ability to get on base again and to come through in some important situations, I think that's got to do a lot for his confidence. And you hope that has a carryover effect as well. Now, he did, like you said, he didn't start the game, so he comes in to pinch hit. We've seen Davey do this a couple of times with him. He did it in Chicago, remember, a few weeks ago, and he delivered. Having Ruiz pinch hit for Riley Adams late in the game that Adams actually was starting behind the plate. Adams really has not done a whole lot offensively here in a while. So that's a clear sign that they have more faith in Ruiz. And so the fact that he has come through a couple of times is nice. He did, however, during that bullpen blowup, had a bad attempt at blocking a pitch that wound up as a wild pitch. We talked about the defensive part of his game and how it still needs some improvement. It was unfortunately an example. Maybe it didn't matter in the end whether they won the game or not, but it was a ball that probably needs to at least be knocked down and not allowed to get to the backstop.
Yeah, if you look at Keibert's advanced numbers defensively for this season, they're still not good. I mean, the advanced numbers for last season were horrible. They're maybe a little better this season, but they're still not where you want them to be. So for sure, that defense does need work. Now, we thought that we might see Lane Thomas activated for this series. That did not happen. And Davey on Friday essentially said he was not going to be activated for this series. But it is looking and feeling like he will be activated for this 4-game set at the Atlanta Braves. And so we saw Victor Robles start on Sunday afternoon. He was the Nats starting center fielder and number 9 batter. He went 1 for 2 with a bunt single and a stolen base. He in the bottom of the 6th had a leadoff first pitch, bunt single to the right side of the infield, also had a steal of second base. I think the widespread anticipation at this point is that the corresponding roster move when Thomas is activated will be Robles. Will not be Jacob Young. Wouldn't make much sense for it to be Jacob Young. And I suppose it could be Joey Meneses being optioned to AAA, but that feels less and less likely. I guess we'll see. But I guess my question is this. Was Sunday's game Victor Robles' last game for the Nationals? I mean, that possibility exists. Do you think that we saw Robles for the final time in a Nats uniform?
I think there's a very good chance that that is true, unfortunately. The fact that he has not played very much lately, I think we know that Jacob Young has taken over as the center fielder. I don't know whether it was intentional to have him start this game thinking that maybe this move was coming. If it wasn't, I do feel like you're now at a point where it's pretty obvious what's going to happen. Meneses did homer the other day, didn't have a great weekend, but he is still playing and batting in a prominent position like we've discussed, whereas Robles, it feels like, has been buried. And if you're now in a spot where Thomas is your everyday right fielder, Young is your everyday center fielder, and you still have Winker and Rosario that you're trying to get at bats, it's hard to see how Robles would even fit into that picture and have any opportunity to play. So we'll find out for sure on Monday, but I think the signs are all pointing in that direction. And if it is, I think it would be interesting to note that Victor Robles' potential final at bat as a National was a very well executed bunt single, and then he stole second. So I know that's not what we saw as much from him as you would have liked over the last few years, but at least he went down doing something that he had the ability to do and did it successfully. And whether he can leave with his head held high, we'll see or not. But I thought that was, notable that potentially his final moment as a National at the plate was that particular type of play.
From groan-worthy dad jokes to patching up skinned knees, your dad is one of a kind. This Father's Day, give him a gift that is guaranteed to take him to his happy place. Omaha Steaks. Order mouth-watering gift packages starting at just $89 when you go to omahasteaks.com and use promo code NATSCHAT at checkout. Each package is backed by their unconditional money-back guarantee. Show your dad the love he deserves with a gift as unforgettable as he is. Visit omahasteaks.com, promo code NATSCHAT at checkout.
And the first pitch to Julio is belted to deep left center field. Forget about it. This one is back, and it is gone off the back wall of the Seattle bullpen. A line smash homer for Rodriguez makes it 2-0 Mariners. That's his fourth of the year, his second of the series. A laser beam.
Well, the Nats starting pitcher for this 9-5 loss to the Mariners at Nationals Park on Sunday afternoon was Patrick Corbin. He allowed 4 runs, 3 earned in 6 innings. He gave up 4 hits, which were 2 home runs and 2 singles. He issued 2 walks. He recorded 4 strikeouts. He threw 87 pitches, 54 strikes versus 33 balls. Corbin, in the top of the second, allowed an unearned run due to third baseman Nick Senzel committing a fielding error, as Senzel allowed a one-out grounder off the bat of Mitch Haniger to go right between the legs. Now, C.J. Abrams then made an outstanding backhanded diving catch of a well-hit grounder off the bat of Jorge Polanco for an out at second base for a one-out fielder's choice, but a run did score on the play. And then Corbin in the top of the fourth allowed 3 runs on 2 homers and a walk. He gave up a leadoff first pitch home run by Julio Rodriguez on a bomb to left field. The homer went a projected 423 feet per Statcast. Corbin then issued a 5-pitch walk of Mitch Garver, and Corbin then gave up a full count 2-run homer by Ty France to left field for a 4-0 Mariners lead, despite Corbin having had France down in the count at 1.02. What'd you make of Patrick Corbin's outing?
Certainly wasn't Corbin's worst. We saw that earlier in the homestand when he really got lit up, but it obviously wasn't his best either. And I think what stands out is the thing that he had done a pretty good job of up till the last week or so was keeping the ball in the yard. And he gave up 3 homers in the last start and then 2 in this one. And that's often, when he gets into trouble. Now, the rest of his innings were pretty good. And to his credit, and we say this all the time, he has the really rough 4th inning, but he comes right back and he ends up retiring the last 8 batters he faced, and he gets through 6. And for all his faults, you can kind of always count on him to get into and often through the 6th inning. And as rough as the bullpen situation was at the end of the game, given the guys who were not available, think about how much harder it would have been if Corbin didn't at least get through the 6th inning. If you have to pull him in the 5th or the 4th, it could have been a nightmare scenario. Maybe they never even have a chance to come back and win this game. So I know the bar is low and you'd like for a lot better from him in this one. But in some ways, this just kind of felt like a Corbin start that we've gotten used to in recent years. 6 innings, 4 runs. He didn't blow up. He still kind of gave them a chance. At least he gave them some length. And right now, that's just going to have to be good enough.
All right, next up for the Nats is the big 4-game series at the Atlanta Braves. We have Game 1, Monday afternoon, Memorial Day afternoon, 4:10, first pitch. Mitchell Parker will be the Nats starting pitcher. Game 2, Tuesday night at 7:20. Jake Irvin will be the Nats starting pitcher. Game 3, Wednesday night at 7:20. Mackenzie Gore will be the Nats starting pitcher. And Game 4, Thursday night at 7:20. Trevor Williams will be the Nats starting pitcher. This installment of the Nats Chat podcast has been brought to us by Cape Ivy, a D.C. area charity that has donated over 18,000 ponchos to keep kids warm. Visit capeivy.org for more information. I'm not sure how much of this is coming through, but as I am recording this installment of the podcast in a car in the middle of Pittsburgh, it is pouring rain. So probably a good time to wrap up this installment of the Nats Chat podcast. We appreciate everyone bearing with us here under these circumstances. But we always enjoy hearing from you. You can hit us up on X at Nats_chat. You can email the show, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. We have a website that you can check out, natschatpodcast.com, in which you can buy a Nats Chat podcast t-shirt. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. Hopefully I'm not about to be struck by lightning. And we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat podcast.
Everyone is talking about magnesium. It's all you hear about. But why? What do we know about magnesium? Well, magnesium is the #1 mineral that 75% of Americans are deficient in. If you are a woman over 35, magnesium will help you rediscover balance, energy, and vitality. Magnesium supports more than 300 enzymatic reactions in your body, including those involved in hormonal balance. From functional medicine doctors to mental well-being and female hormone experts, we all know that magnesium is the one mineral to improve all aspects of well-being and health. But which one? Magnesium Breakthrough from Bioptimizers, the trusted choice recommended by leading experts with 7 best-absorbed forms of magnesium to ensure your body receives the support it needs for overall well-being. Go to bioptimizers.com/balance today and use code BALANCE10 for 10% off. Support your journey to wellness at bioptimizers.com/balance. Magnesium Breakthrough from Bioptimizers, your foundation to optimal health and vitality.